I've never done a video with my desk backdrop before. What do you think? Maybe I should get closer actually. Okay. No makeup, no fluff, just the honest truth today. 10 years ago, I quit drinking, which I have been so excited about, like months leading up to this, because 10 years just feels like a huge fucking accomplishment. Like, I guess I never could have imagined myself here. I was really excited, and I was thinking about what I wanted to share for a video for months. I've done a few videos on sobriety in the past, but this one just felt like it needed to be a big deal, and I don't know, I wanted to celebrate and inspire others. And then a few weeks ago, something happened. Something that really took the wind out of my sails, I guess you could say. And just made me question a lot of things, and this is gonna be a hard video to make. Yeah, the last week or so leading up to my 10 years, I just kept thinking about what I wanted to share, and all I could think about was this thing, which at first I didn't even consider sharing, to be honest. But anything else that I could say, I just feel like it would feel inauthentic, because all I can think about is this thing. It's just like looming over everything. And so this was not the video that I intended to make today, but that's life. So what happened? Oh my god. I feel like I can't even make eye contact with you. Ooh. Okay. A few weeks ago, I was out to dinner with some friends, which is not something I ever do. I was on a work trip. We were in LA, and we were celebrating a big project that we launched, whatever. So we were at dinner, and I was in a celebratory mood, and we were at this fancy place, and I thought about how I had heard recently that there's non-alcoholic wine options. I guess I had heard of 0.0 beers. Luke has had some before. I've never tried it. I did have non-alcoholic champagne in a mimosa at Christmas. My cousin brought it, but I've never bought anything. I've never ordered anything. I've never even ordered a mocktail in my entire 10 years of sobriety. But we never go out to eat, so there's that. I drink kombucha in a wine glass at home, and that's kind of my mocktail. But anyways, so we're at dinner, and I thought to myself, ooh, we're at this fancy place. I wonder if they have anything like that. So I asked about non-alcoholic pretend alcohol beverages, and they didn't have any like pretend wine or champagne or anything, but they had some mocktails. So he starts like listing off some of the mocktails, and I just was like, I don't know, whatever, surprise me. So then the next two girls after me both ended up ordering espresso martinis. And so yeah, I think he ended up, because of that, putting in for me an espresso martini. He goes to get the drinks. I express to the table, there's 4 or 5 other people there. Wow, I've never ordered a mocktail before. Like, how do I trust that there's gonna be no booze in it? Like, suddenly I felt like this, I don't know, hesitation or lack of trust or adrenaline, I don't know. And the girls were all like, we're at a nice place, like, I wouldn't worry about that. He comes back with the drinks. My espresso martini is in the same glass as the other two girls, but clearly a different color. So I'm like, okay, it's probably fine. So I take one small sip. Definitely no alcohol in it. It just tasted like coffee. We ordered dinner. Dinner comes. We're eating dinner. I finish my espresso martini. He takes my glass. I have a water glass. I'm drinking water. Do you guys know where this is going? I'm like, oh, I'm so nervous. Inconveniently far away. Okay, so later on, we're talking. I'm not paying attention. I pick up someone else's espresso martini that's sitting next to me. It was not directly in front of me. It was in front of her, but it was in my reach. Not even thinking. I'm talking. I take a sip. I was starting to swallow when I tasted it. And before I could spit, I'm gonna cry. Before I could spit it out, I mean, I tried. I like spit into a napkin, but I had already swallowed it. Like I just spit, you know, what was left on my tongue. That's such a hard thing to describe. But I tried to spit. Not much came out, but I definitely swallowed some. I exclaimed, like, or I don't know, it's kind of a blur. I feel like I was like, oh my god, I just took a sip of her drink on accident, you know? And I think the initial, it was just so weird that I was like already nervous about ordering a fucking drink. Anyway, everybody's like initial reaction at the table, I think, was like shock for a second and then kind of looking at me for my reaction, and I feel like we all just kind of like nervous, awkward, laughed about it, but also I'm like, I can't believe I just did that, and I'm like trying to process what happened, and I'm like, my first thought was like, should I run to the bathroom and try to make myself throw up? Like, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna feel this? Like, I'm 3 weeks away from 10 years. How the fuck did I just do that? I've never done that before. And like, these people are my friends, sort of, but I'm a polite person and I didn't want to like make a big deal. I don't know, it all just happened fast, and I kind of was like, holy fuck, I can't believe I just did that, oh my god. And then like, I don't know, tried to change the subject, I guess. So eventually subject is changed, people are talking about whatever, and I'm just like in my head like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm thinking about like telling Luke. Like, do I tell Luke? Is he gonna believe me? Like, I'm out in LA with friends out. Is he gonna believe that it was an accident? Like, what if other people hear about this? Like, what would people think? And I'm just like freaking out and thinking, what if I start to feel this? Then what? Then it's really fucking over, you know? Like, what if I feel buzzed or dizzy or hot? That was a weird thing to say, but you know, when you just feel like warm inside or something, and I'm like waiting for it to happen and I'm freaking out, like, what if it happens? What if it happens? And all the while we're still talking about other things. Anyways, dinner goes on for a little bit, and then eventually somehow it circled back to this conversation, probably because I later just couldn't help it and said, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. because I just feel like that's all that I wanted to say. Like, oh my god, oh my god. So eventually it circles back to the conversation, and as I was starting to like process more in my head, I started to sort of say, like, I have never done that before. Like, especially early on in sobriety, I feel like I would have dreams sometimes where you did that, like took a sip on accident, like it was just in your hand and then you realize it and like you're in your dream but it's still scary. Or I've definitely had dreams where I was like drinking in my dream and just like forgot that I was sober and then like suddenly remembered it randomly when it was like way too late in my dream. Like, I haven't had a dream like that in a while, but they've occurred off and on in the 10 years, and I just can't fucking believe that it actually happened, that I did that, you know? And everyone's like, it was a mistake, it's okay. But as I'm like explaining, you know, about the dream thing, I started like welling up with tears. I mean, I wasn't like full on sobbing, but yeah, I think everyone at the table started to realize like how serious this was to me. Then, I don't know, dinner eventually ended. I think by the end of dinner it had been a while and I definitely didn't feel anything, thank God. And so I was starting to feel a little bit better about the situation. Like, at least I didn't feel anything. Like, I can maybe just pretend this never happened. And I was still kind of going back and forth about telling Luke. I mean, I guess I knew I would tell him, but I just, at that dinner that night, I just was like, I feel like I don't ever want to speak of this again. Later that night, I talked to Nicole, my good friend, about it a little bit more. I was feeling a little bit better, I guess. And then the next morning, just because of the time change from California to New Hampshire, it was like the middle of the night here in New Hampshire. So I didn't call Luke that night. But the next morning I called Luke, and he was gonna be at work when I called him. I was gonna be leaving to get on a plane. It was a lot of commotion. I was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna tell him now or if I'm just gonna wait till I get home. I was just gonna see how the phone call went and play it by ear. So anyways, got him on the phone, and I feel like I like couldn't help myself. I had to tell him. So explained the whole thing to him. I think I probably cried telling him. And Luke just, he's so wonderful. He just said everything right. Everything to make me feel better that I could possibly ever want to hear. After telling him, it was like a huge relief. I had been thinking the night before and that morning, like, maybe I need to go to an AA meeting. I've never been very into AA. I went a little bit at the beginning, and I don't know, that popped into my head. That thought doesn't pop into my head very often, but I think I just didn't know. I didn't know what to think of this. Like, did I fuck up? Am I still 10 years sober? Like, does this completely negate everything? I don't know. Like, I needed an answer. And so I thought maybe going to an AA meeting, they could tell me, like, what does this mean? After talking to Luke, he was kind of like, no, like, you're fine. It was a mistake that happens. Like, don't even dwell on this or whatever. And so it kind of like confirmed, like, okay, I guess this doesn't count. I don't know, that sounds so weird because it does count to me. I knew my intentions. I knew that it was a mistake, but also I have a very hard boundaries or rules, set rules for myself that I follow, and that is this weird gray area. Anyway, whatever. I didn't go to an AA meeting. I flew home that day and went back to work and tried to just like put it out of my mind, like accepted that it was a mistake, it happened, but we're not gonna dwell on it, we're not gonna think about it, we're gonna pretend it didn't happen, I guess. One of my clients came in a week or so ago who is in recovery herself, and she also works as like a drug and alcohol counselor, and she is more involved in like the AA community and just the recovery community. I'm not really in a part of that, and that sounds weird, but anyway, so her and I are close. I've known her for 10 years, and I decided I wanted to confide in her and see what she thought. Went through the whole story, and she assured me, you know, well, she asked, I think something that was interesting is she asked, like, what was I so emotional about? Was it, or scared of, like, was I scared that that was gonna instigate me drinking again or something? And I was like, you know, no, that's not even remotely a thought. I think I was just scared of what other people would think if they knew that. Like, I feel like some people don't drink or quit drinking, but maybe they have one once in a while, and that's fine for them, but that's not what I do ever. Like okay, vegans and vegetarians, like, some people are really strict about that 150%, and then other people like don't eat meat, but they might cheat once in a while. Or the Appalachian Trail, like, you've got your purists that hike every freaking mile, and that's how I was on the AT. And then you've got other people that hike the Appalachian Trail and say they did, but maybe they skipped a few miles here and there. And to each their own, that's great. I literally don't care what anybody else does, but I feel like for me, integrity is everything. And the thought of, like, even just the people at dinner, like, if they saw me have a sip, like, they might automatically assume that, oh, well, I just have one once in a while, but I'm mostly sober, you know? And that's not the case. And so when I was talking to my client, I sort of, I guess, talked through that, about that was really what it came down to. I was terrified of anybody finding this out and what they might assume based off of that information, which is kind of fucking stupid, but it's just true. So I don't know, I sat with that, but ultimately at the end of that appointment, she made me feel a lot better. Like, she really is in the AA world and is a counselor and has had those situations happen before, and she said, you know, based off of my story and my intent and whatever, like, absolutely, I'm still 10 years sober. Which I'm sure other people might have other conclusions, I don't know. But all of this to say, this has been me, like, processing this the last few weeks. And at the end of the day, all that matters, I guess, is how I feel about it, right? I guess. In theory. Anyway, so circling back, leading up to this video, leading up to 10 years, this past week I just kept thinking about what I wanted to share, and I literally felt dead inside. Like, I couldn't think of anything that I could possibly share that would feel inspiring and authentic when I felt like I was hiding this thing that happened that I did. I never considered sharing about this until yesterday, the day before, all of a sudden I was just like, I literally can't say anything real unless I say this. I feel like, and maybe that's what I have to do. My biggest fear was what other people might make of this situation, or honestly my biggest fear is people finding out about this. And so the only way I'm gonna face that and like truly accept what happened and move past it, I think, is by sharing it and just being honest with others, but also honest with myself. And this is probably to some people gonna seem so stupid that I'm so emotional over this. It was a mistake. It was one sip. I didn't feel it. I keep saying these things to try to convince myself that it wasn't a big deal, but it felt like a really big deal. Anyway, this was not the vibe of what I thought my 10-year celebration would be, but this is the reality. And yeah, maybe this has happened to you, maybe this will happen to you someday, and maybe this could help, even though I feel like I'm probably not very inspiring about it, but maybe you can relate, or I don't know. I just feel like 10 years, every hard thing that's happened, every stressful thing at work, every, you know, funeral, my dad passing away, every good thing, every celebration, every wedding, my own wedding, every bachelorette party, every New Year's Eve, I've chose not to drink. And people that don't drink typically don't really understand that commitment of every single day, every single situation, choosing yourself. It's a very internal journey. Like, nobody else really cares what you do, so to choose it over and over and over and over and over again for 10 fucking years is a big deal to me. And I hate that this stupid thing, this mistake that I made, has put a damper on it, but I'm hoping that by just sharing it and being honest about it and accepting that it happened, that will help me move forward from here for the next 10 years. Maybe I won't do that next time. Okay, I don't know. I guess that's it. I should have probably thought about how to wrap this up on a more positive note. Thank you guys for understanding, and if you don't, then fuck you.